39 minutes back in your life. I apologize. We had a program in with the mayor out on Wilshire Boulevard at La Brea for the kicking off of the construction relocation of utilities for the coming of the Metro Rail. I just walked over to committee where my colleague, Mr. Rosendahl, is over in 1010. He'll be joining us in about 10 minutes or less. And there's a number of issues, Madam CLA, I want to take up and save some. Mr. Rosendahl's deputy here. So we need Mr. Rosendahl's deputy here just to flag if there's anything that he has a particular interest in.
Yes.
You could do that.
He just walked out.
He just stepped out. Okay. Very good. Not realize that I probably walked over there. But let's start in the harbor right now. Item number 1, Madam Clerk.
Yes. Under item 1, the Board of Harbor Commissioners submits for approval a permanent board order and ordinance to amend the tariff to require cruise ship owners and cruise ship passengers to pay fees to help cover the cost of shoreside power, which is being provided at the harbor by Water and Power.
Hello.
Yes, good afternoon. Captain John Holmes, Director of Operations at the Port. This is relatively straightforward. This will be a passenger fee, and it will help us defer the substantial cost of putting in the AMP infrastructure. That's so that the cruise ships can go and hook up to shore power. And of course, it costs the cruise ships quite a bit of money to reconfigure a ship to do so, and it costs the Harbor Department millions of dollars to put in the infrastructure for them to hook up.
Captain Holmes, do other ports have a
fee of this nature? The ports in Alaska and some of the other ports do have a small per passenger fee for a number of things, including
shuttle transportation,
security, things like this.
What do you think the fee will be?
The fee is
30 cents.
it's like 30 cents a passenger.
30 cents a passenger. Okay.
Both arriving and departing.
Right.
So that's 60 cents, or is that?
It
So
would be,
Yeah, so that's 60 cents times, this year we'll probably handle about 500,000 passengers.
And so, Avak, you're good with that? 500 passengers at 60 cents. What's that? Come on, you got one of those Blackberries right there. You don't want to work it? Go to school and learn some of that.
It's between $250,000 and $300,000.
$300,000, good. So that covers it, and it's something that we do, and it won't hurt us. It won't hurt us. It won't make us.
Won't
Does
hurt
Long
us.
Beach do the same thing, or is?
Long Beach does not do the same thing yet, but typically when we do something shortly thereafter,
After they do it, and they doing shoreside power as we are.
They do shoreside power, not at the cruise terminal as we have. We've spent about $5 million to retrofit the cruise terminal.
Recommend approval. Thank you very much. Next item.
under item 2 is another amendment to the tariff to make some refinements in the Clean Air Action Program and Clean Truck Program.
Yes, it is. Over the period of time that we've been running the Clean Truck Program, we've had to make some minor amendments to the tariff. Initially, as you're aware, we had restrictions on the large trucks entering the port, which are the Class 8 trucks, and then we subsequently found out that some of our more enterprising trucking companies were using trucks a bit smaller to haul containers in and out, which was a way for them to get around the requirement for a 2007 EPA truck. And so we've had to make a change, which includes some of the smaller trucks, so that people can't
Your
sort
commission's approved this.
Yes.
Very good. Recommend approval. We're going to hold 3 and 4 for Mr. Rosendahl. And 5, let's start with 5.
Under item 5, the Board of Airport Commissioners submits for approval a replacement lease with Southwest Airlines Company.
Good.
This is for premises located at 9851 Coast Guard Road at LAX for a term of 5 years. And I might mention there are 2 other leases on the agenda with Southwest. You might want to discuss them all at the same time.
Very good. Let's discuss all the Southwest leases at once.
Okay, that would be items 5, 7, and 8.
Great.
And these leases are for their storage for food and beverage and all their other airline supplies.
Right.
It's for their ground service equipment maintenance facility, and it's for their cargo facility.
Right.
And they're all just 5-year leases, and they're all at market rate.
All on 5, 7, and 9. All the same?
Yes.
5, 7, and 8.
5, 7, and 8. And we're joined by Mr. Rosendahl. Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. CAO, you have anything you want to add to that?
We have reviewed and recommend approval.
Okay. Mr. Rosendahl, I checked with your staff. We have a review of green light items on leases for Southwest Airlines at the airport, approved by the Board of Commissioners. You have any objection to that at all?
Great.
Okay, so let's go ahead with 5, 7, and 9,
And 8.
and 8. Excuse me, I'll get it down one day. And let's take up 9 and 10 right now.
There, hold it tight.
9 and 10?
Sure. Under item 9 is an amendment to a sole source software license agreement that LAWA has with SAP Public Services. It allows the department to operate its financial accounting management information system. The amendment would extend the term for 4 years, expiring in December 2016, would amend the pricing schedule for the services to be provided in the next 4 years, and would add provisions for compliance with the city's restrictions on campaign contributions by contractors and subcontractors.
Good. And for the World Airports?
Right, good afternoon. Wei Chi, Lawa Comptroller. This is our core financial system that we implemented in 2002. So we want to continue to use SAP as our core financial system.
Right, and the sole source is, when are you going to go out to bid on this?
We don't have a choice in terms of the software for this particular one.
It's unique, but it's the best for the
Right, with the
airport. Got it. Mr. CAO?
It was originally competitively bid, and now we are
okay, got it.
renewing that contract.
Very good. You straighten that out, Mr. CAO. Very good. Let's, Mr. Rosendahl, any questions
No
on number
questions,
9?
and I'm,
Go ahead on 9.
Mr. Chair, to approve it.
Thank you so much. So, unanimous. Next item?
Item 10 is an amendment to the contract with Jones Lang LaSalle Brokerage, a real estate consulting firm, which is assisting LAWA with the development of a request for concepts and qualifications and a request for proposals for development of a potential renewable energy project at Palmdale. The amendment would extend the current term by 2 years for a total term of 5 years.
Go ahead, please.
This is just to give us some technical
For
expertise.
the record, state your name.
This is Debbie Bowers,
I know
Deputy
Debbie.
Executive Director at Airport at LAWA. This is just for the technical expertise we need to review the responses to the RFP.
Right.
Uh,
And renewable energy, have we talked to Water and Power at all? Because they got the transmission. You could have as much infrastructure, but it takes 3 things to run a power company. You know what they are, Debbie?
No.
Generation, transmission, and distribution. That's what DWP has all. They got the generation, it gets on the transmission line. So being near Palmdale, they're not far from the Owens Valley transmission, which would be a plus for us. So make sure you meet with Water and Power and make sure you're on the same
We have.
wavelength. Mr. CEO, anything to add?
No, Mr. Chairman, we agree with the department's request.
Very good, and it's all good.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Rosendahl, on this item,
Yes,
renewables.
this request just extends the contract term, but does not increase the compensation. Is that right?
That's correct.
That's music to my ears. When do you anticipate making a contract award for development of the renewable energy project?
I probably will bring something to the board in January.
Just on that note, the renewable energy project, what are you talking about? This is in Palmdale, sort of a distant part of our world these days. And what are you saying this will be, this renewable business?
It's some sort of solar energy. We just got the responses in, so I haven't looked at them yet. But it's only for 800 acres of the 17,000, and so it's like half of it. We split it in 2, and so I haven't looked at it. We've got some responses.
So the 800 acres will probably be full of those
Solar panels.
solar panels, and the hope is you would push that energy into our grid somehow?
It's in the grid up in that area in Palmdale. There's actually a station on our property, and that's what they're going to use. It goes into, I think, the ComEd grid system.
The Con Ed grid system, and is Palmdale and...
Not Con Ed. Con Edison's in New York. It would be the Southern California
That's
Edison.
not right. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's
There
all
you
right.
go. There
I'm
he
listening
is.
to the news too much.
Yeah, that's right.
And we get some compensation for that, or how
yeah.
does it work?
Yes, it's being treated as a lease, but it's a lease with some percentage participation when they get some of the upside from selling the energy through a PPA, through a purchase power agreement.
Great. Now, if we ever get that high-speed rail and we go through there and we do all these other things that make it a convenient airport, does this in any way preclude the future use of Palmdale property for airport purposes?
Absolutely not. That's exactly why we're doing this use, is because it would be very easy to remove if necessary, so we can put an airport in when the time is right.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I smile a lot at her because she's the one who gave me my 3 holes in my golf course in Westchester, and the people are forever grateful for that.
Well, here's a tough question, Mr. Rosen. I know you're a man of the
wait,
world.
Wait a minute.
How many total holes at the golf course?
Well, now there's 18.
Oh, very good. All right, you got it. All right, you got it. All right.
But it had a lot to do with working with community, and we're
Right.
very grateful for that.
Well, that Ms. Bauer is very effective, which we thank.
She is.
Last question. Where was Babe Ruth when he got traded from Boston to the Yankees? He was playing golf in Griffith Park.
Oh, my
True
God.
story. So there's a little history for everybody, yes. So, all right, very good. Well, thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. We'll
Thank you.
unanimous on that. And let's take item number 6 before we get back to those other items.
Yes, under item 6, the Board of Airport Commissioners submits for approval a lease with T5 at Los Angeles LLC. This is for premises of approximately 4,500 square feet in a new building at 444 North Nash Street in El Segundo, where LAWA wishes to establish a new data center. The lease would have an initial term of 15 years with 3 renewable options of 5 years each for a potential maximum term of 30 years.
As you stated, this is for a lease to put our new data center in. It consolidates a lot of old tired facilities that we have on the airport. And I can let Dom, our Director of IT, tell you the state of affairs right now at the airport. They gave us facility requirements. It had to be within 3 miles of the airport in order to service them operationally. A Tier 3 structural fault-tolerant type of requirement. The power we had to have power redundancy, and we also had to have professional maintenance of the data center infrastructure, which includes specialized cooling units, UPS, the generators, and a power substation and transformer. So when we did our search, we went out pretty far. We looked at about 60 to 80 facilities around the airport, and we spread out as far as 10 to 15 miles just to check. And this was the best facility that we found.
Well, just a question I have. Do we have much property that we lease in El Segundo?
This would be the first lease in El Segundo.
And there was nothing in Los Angeles available, nothing against El Segundo?
There was nothing that fit the parameters that we were looking for within the radius or some of the other structural parameters.
And you don't need any zoning from the city of El Segundo? You could walk in and...
Yeah, it's already a facility that's being built as a data center. We're just an anchor tenant of it.
Right.
So we don't need anything special from El
Right.
Segundo.
Mr. Rosendahl?
Yes, just curious, because I see it in writing here, approximately $1.36 million, including estimated pass-throughs for operating and power costs and taxes for a 1-year lease. Is that right?
Yes, that's the first year.
And then rent commencement, the data is a 30-day calendar after substantial completion of the landlord work. And then $2.9 million, any unused amount would be credited toward rental payments.
Correct.
Okay, that's it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good, okay. Make sure you let them know, the good people at El Segundo, that we're invested in their city as well, so we bring good things too.
Amen.
Thank you. Approval on that. Let's go back to the agenda in order. Let's go to number 3.
Under item 3, motion Parks Perry proposes that the council ask Los Angeles World Airports to meet and work with the group called Bridging the Divide, along with the Bradley family and other city staff, to identify a suitable location within the Tom Bradley International Terminal at LAX for a continuing multimedia exhibit about Mayor Bradley.
Very good.
Mark Adams, Los Angeles World Airports. As the committee may recall, we have an RFP in process for what's called a terminal media operator. That team of firms will essentially replace our advertising contract currently and will deal with a lot of the media type issues that are going to be in the new Bradley terminal. As part of that process, the TMO will be developing and acquiring appropriate content for media displays throughout the terminal, and this will include a a display relative to Mr. Bradley. We will be working with Bridging the Divide and any other people who are interested in working with us to develop an appropriate media content display for to remember Mr. Bradley.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Obviously, I knew him, loved him, and he was a fantastic guy, and I'm thrilled the Bradley Terminal exists, and we're modernizing it the way we are. Will you come back with the exact layout and the plans and all of that so we can take a look at the real detail of what you're doing?
Once everything is finalized, of course we will.
And what kind of a cost factor are we looking at in doing all this?
We're going to have to work that out with the terminal media operator, the TMO contractor, and figure out exactly what we're going to do, where we're going to do it.
And how much it's going to cost? Okay, well, I look forward to all that and your report back on that, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, do you have 1% for the art included in this? I mean, is there some aspect?
Absolutely.
You've been up to the tower?
In this building?
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
You studied Mr. Bradley's bust and the words that were there?
Yes, in fact,
You know,
we have a bust of Mr. Bradley in front of the Bradley.
Right, I know
Yeah,
that. Yeah, but I think you should think about it and also think about why it was important for us and the heritage that Mr. Bradley had in inviting the world to the Olympic Games in '84 along with John Farrell. John Farrell's got the Department of Water and Power building named after. That's a pretty good building. But for Mr. Bradley, there should be some right recognition. So we want to make sure that you do it right and give the credit to the great name of Tom Bradley. And I was on his youth council, Billy,
Is that right?
1974.
You know, the beauty for him personally was he
75.
had my very first show, came to press conference.
Right.
It said incredible things about it, which I used in a PSA for 16 years.
Well,
It's great.
and can I tell you one Tom Bradley story? In my trunk in my car are jumper cables. Why? Because even I think I was working for Peggy Stevenson in 1977. The mayor was at the observatory, and there was a woman with a car with a dead battery, a Bach, right in the observatory. And who got out of the car? Not the mayor's policeman, but the mayor himself got in the trunk, hooked the battery cables to the woman's car, had his a specialist turn his car around, and the mayor got in his car and hooked the battery cables to his. And I've jumped a few batteries, but I'm not anywhere near what Mayor Bradley was. But I learned from him, always carry cables in your car, because not only can help somebody, you'll get their vote. So, okay. All right. So thank you, Mark.
Very cool.
Thank you very much. So thank you for all that work out there. And that's one little extra thing, because Mr. Bradley would allow me this. Make sure in the multimedia there's something for our sister cities. So that's a friendly amendment, just sister cities, because Mr. Bradley was a great
So we've
champion.
had requests to do sister cities,
Right.
neighborhoods, all sorts of things. The terminal media operator is going to look at all those different requests
Got it.
in parallel and
And we'll
figure out
talk
how
to you
it
in
all
6
can.
months and figure
I'll
out.
get work
Thank
together.
you.
Also, Johnny Ferraro's and the others that were with him during that day, some flashes of them,
Right.
kind of show his history as mayor.
You got it, the team.
That's
All right, now next item.
Item 4 is motion Park Smith, which was adopted by council in September 2009, and it amended the existing living wage ordinance to add provisions to to govern the living wage and health care benefits for those workers whose employers are private sector employers operating at Los Angeles International Airport. And this motion by Park Smith requests the addition of 3 new requirements that weren't included in the ordinance that has already been adopted.
Very
And this would include establishment of a minimum standard for basic provisions of a healthcare medical plan. It would make no requirement to pay the employee the specified wage differential if the employer already meets the minimum standard, and it requires a report to council by LAWA and other city departments to conduct a thorough impact analysis of the effect of any price caps imposed on airport businesses. Finally, the motion asks the Board of Public Works, Contract Administration, CAO, and CLA to report on how these proposed amendments would be implemented.
Very good, thank you. I do have some cards which I'll take after we hear from the CAO, the city attorney, and the more important, the Bureau of Contract Administration. So, CAO have anything they want to add to this? Okay, and if you could bring a chair up to the table. And you could all be concise, but also is to pitch it, because I know there's a team effort here. And I don't know if you want to just start briefly with the city attorney and then the contract administration, CAO, or vice versa, whatever you think.
Okay, I try to be as concise
Got it,
as
John.
possible. In 2009, there was an amendment to the living wage ordinance to address healthcare issues at the airport. And part of that, there was discussion regarding healthcare from the standpoint of establishing a standard. This motion to revive that is to revisit that discussion. What we would recommend or like to see happen are three things, a couple of things, that the CLA take a look at, given the fact that we now have an Affordable Care Act for this country that is attempting to address health care across the board for employees. The City of LA, we looked at this a lot sooner than the nation did. So we want to address, is there going to be any type of conflict between what the nation requirements are and what our
Or
requirements are?
federal requirements.
Federal requirements, most certainly. Thank you. The second thing is, the CAO has responded, as the ordinance requires, to review any potential increase in cost as it relates to health care. That has not been finalized simply due to the fact that we have a number of things that are up in the air, the Federal Health Care Act being one of them, and the impact that it could have. So once the CLA report is done, taking a look at the impact, the CLA, I'm going back to the CLA, the impact that the Affordable Care Act could potentially have with our current ordinance, then we compare that with what the CAO has looked at. It has not been finalized, it's just in draft format, the potential increase in cost of health care. The third thing we'll do is it'll allow the Bureau, as a designated administrative agency, to see whether or not there are any monies left over for the employees, which is the second point that was raised in the motion. Currently, the practice is whatever monies are left from health care costs that exist to an employee, they go to the employee. What this motion is saying is that no monies will exchange hands between the employer and the employee. The employer will just provide health care. So the critical part, council members, would be for the CLA to take a look at the Affordable Care Act and its impact on the ordinance itself, and then we can respond accordingly with respect to any cost increases and how we would recommend to you the administration of this ordinance.
Right, hold on just for a minute, we're going to get a better chair. I apologize as
No,
chairman.
I just appreciate.
My fault, I should
It's
have had
not
a
your
better
fault,
chair.
you're great, and it will give me a little more comfort
Right,
in my
got it,
situation.
got it. So we'll get you up.
Okay.
Going up, yes, going up, I got your back. Good job, okay, relax, put your hand right there. Go here, move that way. Maybe a little lower or a little higher, Billy, I'm right here.
No, that's fine, just hold it.
Hold it tight, I got it right real quick, okay, you ready? That feel better?
Go back here.
All right.
Apologize, everybody. for
No,
this. Thank you very much.
Just
No
thinking.
apologies necessary.
That's right. You got that, yeah. Good. How's that feel?
Great.
Good. So to clarify then, we need to have some study to update this.
Most certainly.
Right,
The three parties you mentioned, the
Right.
CLA, as it relates to the Federal Affordable Care Act,
right.
the CAO, so they can finalize their recommendations as to what, if any, cost increase would be recommended as it relates to
If any,
healthcare. If
right.
any. And then the Bureau would then be able to say, or give you recommendations as to how we would implement this ordinance as a whole, to go forward and amend the ordinance, and the impact it would have on businesses.
And since the time, the national standard, or the federal government now, the Affordable Care Act,
It's currently
is a new law, when does it go into effect?
It's currently slated to go into effect January 2014.
So you got to review all these things for next year.
We have, 14, 15 months,
Right.
I would argue.
Right.
But we want to have our recommendation in place
Way ahead of it.
prior to, most certainly.
Right. Madam CAO,
Yes, sir.
would you like to add to any of this report?
No, I think he has covered it very well.
Good, okay, good. And Madam City Attorney?
I agree. I think
Okay.
everything's been covered.
All right, so just as a question, related, and I don't know if you could talk about it at all, related to the current situation at the airport and the issue that is regarded in any particular organization, this covers everybody, right? Anybody who's at the airport, not one particular group or everybody?
Everybody.
Everybody. So it's updating and needed to be done. Okay, and I just had a note handed to me that we're going to call on the public comment right now. So if you could vacate your seats, and I'm going to call public comment right now. Max Gutierrez, Shirley Barilla, and Joe Conlon. Whatever way you're comfortable.
Okay, I think we'll go first. Good afternoon, my name is Marx Gutierrez. I'm with SEIU United Service Workers West. First of all, I'd like to send you back in time a little bit to 2009 to what was the intention of the living wage. Councilman Parks says back in 2009, in the 8th District, about 60% of the population is without health care. They want to get health care, then they sometimes have to go through emergency rooms, which if you follow the paper, we don't have. So the intention was to extend health care, to figure out a need in the community and to address it. $1.50 an hour was a paltry sum and did not afford much back then and wouldn't afford much now. So it was raised to about $4.50. The intent of the living wage was to give the workers as much coverage as possible. And so I want to just focus you on that intent. The Park-Smith Amendment, we feel, sets a standard that creates a basic floor for health coverage at LAX, and we feel that that's needed, and possibly what Mr. Reamer was saying is that will come with the federal standard as well, that will be in links with the federal standard as well. But having individuals opt out creates a complicated web that bureaucratically cannot be enforced. So we feel that great to set up a standard, great to give it to all the workers, give health care to all the workers as much as possible, and because that is the intent of the living wage.
Just a technical question. If, let's say, I work there and my wife works for LA Unified and they have a program for people to get health care from the other spouse's employer.
I think that's a fair question, Chairman, and I think that the monitoring of that is difficult. What agency would do it? Who would do it? How
All right, well,
often
we'll have
would it be?
in the study, we'll look at that as
Would it
well.
be? And so those are some of the questions that we have.
Very good point. Thank you.
Thanks. Joe Conlon, Aviation Safeguards. We believe the living wage ordinance is a really good thing. We do think it could be better. As mentioned, we believe that there should be the option that you just mentioned, that employees, if they have secondary health care, that they are able to opt out so that they can take advantage of the health care that's provided by a family member. Our company interpreted the living wage ordinance to give the employees the option. We've been ruled by BCA that we were not in compliance, and we were forced to make a decision to either provide health care to all of our employees or to provide health care to none of the employees. That none of the employees is not unusual at the airport. Many companies provide the full living wage cost of $15.37 and do not provide any health care to employees. We believe there's an easy fix to the situation, and that is requiring everybody to provide health care for all, with the only exception that if you can provide proof that you have health care from another source, that you are able to opt out of that health care. We currently have just required our employees we canceled all of our health care based on the existing ruling from BCA. We're asking that during your review process here that any compliance requirements for us is put on hold until that review is done, and that we're able to allow the employees that had health care to remain with their health care until the final ruling has been made on this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask him a question?
You want to ask a direct question to the gentleman?
Please.
Joe.
Good afternoon, and thanks for being here. What is your position in aviation safeguard? Where do you rank in the pecking order of power?
I'm a regional vice president.
And then you report to?
The CEO,
So that's a direct report, and your region includes what?
I go from the Mississippi West.
Good. I appreciate that, because I wanted to get a sense of that. The next,
Mississippi Avenue in West LA, or there's a Mississippi? His district.
I'm very concerned, as are a lot of people, about a potential activity on the 21st of this month, the day before Thanksgiving. For the record, I've been in conversation with the mayor as recently as yesterday, and I know we have in the room Brian Curry, who I would like to have him come up when public comment is over to give us the update. And I know there's been substantial meetings, and my hope is that we can avoid a strike. If we have a strike there are 2 million people coming and going through LAX on that busy day, the 21st. It would be chaos that would vibrate across the planet. As you know, we're the #1 destination airport in the world, and people are coming to visit or leaving to go visit. It's a wonderful time. So do you have any sense of where these discussions are? And do you think there's any way in which we can avoid a confrontation on the 21st, from your opinion?
The discussions are ongoing, and I don't know if you'll be able to avoid it. I don't personally believe that it would be as dramatic in the past, that those potential strikes have not materialized. And history, and I've been at this airport on and off for many years, from before they built the Bradley building, and we've had these potential strikes before, and none of them have ever materialized. But that's here and there. I know that discussions are ongoing. I'm part of them, but I don't know if there will be any resolution by that time.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your candor.
Joe, do you live in LA or you live in Mississippi?
I live in Torrance.
Torrance, okay, good, okay. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Shirley Varela. I work for Aviation Safeguard. I'm a screener there. Main reason that I'm here is because of the living wages. Mainly here to explain my position. I just recently had surgery 2 weeks ago. With the insurance that they provided me, it covered everything. I didn't pay a dime. I had stomach surgery, so I should be resting at this point. But the consequences that we're going through for the past, I'm suffering. Every coworker of mine, I'm here to speak out for them because they're actually doing their job. They're taking care of those doors, watching those planes. I'm here to speak out. And at this point, I'm asking you, please, to just hold off everything, freeze it, because I have coming up appointments with my surgeons and everything. So that's my opinion. Hopefully you take it. And I'm here to support Aviation Safeguards. And thank you very much, because that really helped me. And I know they could approve. And if you have any questions, I will gladly answer it.
Well, I'm going to have a question. It's a little more of John from the contract administration, if you could, but thank you very much and recover well.
Thank you.
John, if you could come back, or the CAO, and to see this. Now, is there any change, as was explained by Shirley Varela? Give me an example. There's a person whose life is going to change. What is proposed, and could anything be held up on that change?
Well, the operator at the airport, and all the operators at the airport, they have the option to either provide health care or to not provide it for the employees.
This employee has, I hate to get personal, but there's an employee who said they have health care now.
Right.
Now, is that going to change anytime soon?
That is totally dependent upon the employer.
Right.
So what has been communicated to us in the employer, in this case Aviation Safeguard's attempt to comply with the policy, is to not provide health care and to give all the employees what equates to a wage of $15.37 an hour.
Right.
The reason for it, well, I can't speak to the reason for it, but what the ordinance allows is a base rate for living wage of $10.70 an hour. And then what I will call an allowance of $4.67. Any employee who has out-of-pocket costs, meaning that the employer provides them a health care plan and they have to come out of their pocket to pay for it, they get to keep all of the money. There are some employees that work for Aviation Safeguard that They don't want health care. They want the money. And they're saying that they have health care somewhere else. Well, currently, the ordinance does not allow you to opt out if you say you have health care somewhere else. So the company has made the decision to eliminate health care for those who have it, to provide the 1537 for all of their employees. So it's a business decision that's made by Aviation Safeguard.
Does, all these people, are they screened when they work at the airport? Are they given background checks or anything like this?
I would imagine so.
Would it be possible when they do that process, or make a requirement, that they would have to say that they either are going to purchase health care or their family has health care? I mean, this is a question that I would want to at least be asked, because I think that's part of what you said, that we're going to have national compliance through the new federal laws that relates to health care. Correct?
No, absolutely. The challenge here, however, is that in order to accommodate what's been discussed, the ordinance language would need to be amended. So currently, the company is making a business decision. For those employees that have it, they're no longer going to offer it, so that all of the employees can have the wage.
But in the issue of living wage for the Century Boulevard area airport,
Yes,
is there any requirement for health care?
as far as it relates to the airport,
Yeah, or it's just a straight wage? There's nothing in there about health care,
just the wage.
just the wage?
For the hotels,
No, for the airport, anything at the airport.
the airport.
What do you have an ability as an administrator for contract compliance? That's your job.
Right.
That states that people must have health care if they work at the airport.
What the ordinance did was it afforded an opportunity for the workers there to be able to obtain health care. The ordinance for living wage throughout the city,
Right.
the health care component is $1.25.
Right.
And in looking at what all of the workers are subjected to with respect to the heavy flow of passengers coming and going, wanting to maintain a stable workforce, council agreed that it would be an investment to make sure that the health care component that was offered for the airport employees was substantial enough to afford them to be able to obtain health care. Either the employer provide it, or if they don't provide it, then the amount that's in the, again, allowance is enough for them to get it on their own, it being the health care piece. So in the case of Aviation Safeguard, they've made a business decision. At one time, they did provide health care. Now they're choosing not to. And so to suspend the ordinance now, that's obviously something that could be discussed, but the issue here is this lady here, unfortunately, she will not have health care because of a decision that her company made, and that is to no longer provide it.
Let me just ask Mr. Rosendahl some questions there.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, for
Yeah.
the openness of this meeting here and
Right.
how we're doing it. John, I got two questions for you, okay? Do you know how many contracted airport workers today receive full family health care benefits, and whether that number has improved since we amended the living wage ordinance?
No, I don't.
You don't know?
No, I don't.
Can
I
you
don't.
get that information to us?
I will work with LAWA to see if we can come up with that information for you.
Okay, that's great. John, is Aviation Safeguard in compliance with the living wage ordinance yet? If so, what did they do to resolve the problem?
In their last communication with us, they became in compliance, and they did so by choosing not to offer health care to any of their employees. What took us down this path was some of the employees that work for Aviation Safeguard chose to opt out, in other words, reject health care, and they did so inappropriately, in this sense.
Inappropriately or appropriately?
Inappropriately, in a sense that according to the ordinance language, the ordinance did not give you the option of opting out if you did not have out-of-pocket costs. And so even though there is a discussion regarding those employees that might have health care through some other means, currently the ordinance language does not afford that option. So to answer your question, how they came into compliance was choosing not to provide health care for any of their employees.
Okay, I appreciate both your answers on that, but just in a general concept, when they were given a unilateral boot out around Christmas time last year, part of that was psychologically impacting the workers. I looked at some of the votes and this and that, and I ain't no genius, but it looked to me that the majority wanted to continue to go forward with Aviation Safeguard as the historic contract had said, and not let the unilateral thing happen. But that's something that has to be played out. And if I could ask Mark Adams, Mr. Chair, and SEIU and Brian Curry to come up, we've got two questions for them. The SEIU and Brian Curry and LAWA. Mark, on the LAWA question, bluntly, what is LAWA doing to prevent or prepare for labor disruptions at LAX over the Thanksgiving holiday?
Well, I know that our airport police division and is in contact with both the union in terms of finding out what their plans are and in terms of getting their preparations ready for whatever happens on that day. I know our airport police has been preparing for this day for many, for a couple of weeks now, for sure, and is looking at, has done a good job, I think, handling these, the demonstrations that have occurred in the past few months, and I think the airport police feels they're prepared. I'm not able to go into the specifics of those preparations, but I know they've been doing a good job over the last few.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, because to me, that's the big deal, is the 21st and disrupting some 2 million people coming and going out of that airport. Now, if I could ask Brian, you work with Matt and the mayor, correct?
Correct.
And the question really in SEIU, I'd like you to answer it as well, is I understand that the labor community supports keeping the rule that prevents employees from opting out of health care plans unless there is an out-of-pocket expense. Can you explain the reason why this rule is important? If you have any thoughts on it, I'll let the SEIU do that, and I'll ask you for an update.
Well, I'll tell you what, we are working, the mayor takes this very seriously, as you know, since you've spoken to him recently. We are working to facilitate a resolution between the union and Aviation Safeguards. There are some unfortunate aspects of the current ordinance which
That need to be reviewed, and I don't want to get lost on the Brown Act because this isn't specifically on the agenda.
Right.
So let me just ask, and the legislative analyst's office, if I could here, the next meeting for this committee is scheduled when?
Our next scheduled meeting is on November 26th. After that will be December 10th.
Well, we want to have another meeting with this item on that date to really focus on this issue, because it's still within the moment of December 1st, which is when the Board of Contract Administration, the Bureau of Contract Administration is implementing a change, Mr. Rosendahl, on that. So we've got to try to put some people in the room together to try to look at the challenges of you and other employees who are there and see if something can be worked out to be satisfactory for and fair for everybody and within the law.
Mr. Chair,
Okay.
my worry is the 21st.
I got it, but I think when we could, I want to be cautious because we didn't have the 21st on the issue, but instead of mentioning the 21st and looking at the three people before, in cases where people may want to articulate their voice, they must do it in an orderly fashion and not disrupt. So I want to be kind of on the safe side of that. Is that all
I
right?
agree with your safe side of it. I just don't want to see disruption on the 21st. Anything, my office, his office, that we could do to facilitate and avoid that, we want to do.
Thank you. I'm certain we'll be talking to you about that.
Very good. And we thank you. If you want to just say something briefly, general comment?
Mainly that we support the intent of the living wage. These workers, specifically the Aviation Safeguards workers, had full family health care before some of those business decisions were taken by their employer. And
Very good. Got it. So we will be in touch. Sure, just one thing if you could, on the issue of healthcare.
Yes. Our company takes this very seriously, and we believe every worker should have health care under the current situation. It wasn't a business decision. It was the majority of our employees' choice. When we looked at the numbers, had health care. We were at 91%, but we didn't provide all of that health care. A lot of them have health care from outside sources. but the majority, when we made our decision, it was based on what the majority of our employees' choices were at our company. So it was on the employee's decision, not a business decision.
Just a question then for the city attorney's office, with that which just stated by the business, and if you could come up, city attorney, on that, thank you. In our processes here, we have to take certain courses of personnel department, has a variety of things that you take, or ethics department, you got a sign that you take it. If, and I don't know, John, if you could add to this at all, but here's the question. If employees know they're giving up something that they had, can they sign that you have a document that says, I forego my health care based on the fact that my spouse, partner, or whomever has health care? And then they sign it? I mean, that's the thing. There's not clarification, right, John? Come up, because I think what we need to do...
The ordinance doesn't currently have a process whereby an employee could, through some demonstrated coverage, exempt themselves from the living wage. But if we're going to be exploring amendments, we could, with the CAO and CLA's assistance, possibly amend the ordinance in that direction, if we got direction to do so from council.
And do you think this would qualify for an emergency ordinance? If healthcare is ending at the 30th of, and the interesting thing about this year,
Right.
Thanksgiving's early, so there's a little work time. It's not like we're running out of time.
Right. I
Not
think I would speak for John Reamer and I when we both are concerned about any loss of healthcare coverage. We would certainly work diligently to try to bring any amendments we were instructed to bring back to council quickly to try to
Very well.
assist the process.
With your office.
Sure.
All right, well, thank you. So we're going to hold this, and it's going to be in the next committee that we will schedule, which is said to be on the,
So to continue this item.
continue this item right now, to get clarification from everybody, which would be good. So with that being said, is there any other public comment in this room? Yes?
Just let me clear something up. I'm a single person. I don't need a family plan. And I'm not going to be forced to get a family plan because I need that extra money. Now, the Aviation Safeguard is providing a single plan and a single plus one. I think it's fair. I want to make my own choices, not anyone else. If the city's giving us only an option of family plan or no plan, I think it's very unfair.
Okay,
And
so
this
Mr.
lady-
Catalian, take that down. That comment will be considered with everything.
Thank you very much.
Very good point. See no other comment. It is 17 minutes. Mr. Catalian.
Mr. Chairman, would you like to reconsider items 1 and 2 so that both members can approve
Very
them?
good. That's why you're so good, Abak. Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, if I could say that. Let's do 1 and 2 just to get unanimous vote. Is that all right, Mr. Rosendahl?
I certainly would support
Okay.
you and approve with you that both 1 and 2,
Good.
harbor issue.
So, very good. Seeing no other business before it, this meeting is adjourned. Have a good afternoon. Drive safely.